We are going to spend a lot of time in this course evaluating the quality of arguments. But before doing that, you'll need to first learn how to spot when an argument is present. We read and listen to many things every day. How do we figure out when what we're reading or listening to contains an argument versus only containing other kinds of language, like narrative or expressions of feeling? The goal of this video is to equip you with some basic skills to help you identify when an argument is present. Given that, as we saw in the last video, an argument is a set of sentences or claims in which one claim, the conclusion, is presented as being true, and the remainder of the claims, the premises, are offered in support of that claim, unsurprisingly, when we are looking for arguments, we're looking for two things. First, we're looking to see if a conclusion is being asserted, and second, we are looking to see if there are other claims being offered in support of that conclusion. But just stating that is the easy part. The harder part is actually identifying when premises and conclusions are present. Something that's going to be really helpful in identifying premises and conclusions is the presence of indicator words. Indicator words are words that are frequently used to introduce the premises or the conclusion of an argument. There's a separate set of indicator words for premises and a separate set for conclusions. A bunch of indicator words for conclusions include therefore, thus, and so, consequently, necessarily, hence, it follows that, and for that reason. And when it comes to premises, we've got because, since, for, and for that reason. Okay, let's test out how this works with an example. So here we've got a little argument. There is no difference in the dedication and productivity of men and women office workers. Therefore, men and women office workers in comparable positions should be paid the same. Now, maybe it's obvious to you that this is an argument, but if it wasn't, a good place to start in trying to figure out what's going on here would be looking for the presence of indicator words. In this case, we do have an indicator word present, the word therefore. And therefore is an indicator word for conclusions. Now, with this in mind, if we look at what's going on, therefore, men and women office workers in comparable positions should be paid, we can see that the claim, men and women office workers in comparable positions should be paid the same, is our conclusion. Then if we flip around and look at this claim, there is no difference in the dedication and productivity of men and women office workers, we see that it is being offered in support of the conclusion and is thus a premise. So, by starting with the simple presence of an indicator word, we were able to find the conclusion and the premise for the argument. Let's take a look at this one. Marijuana should not be legalized because it is potentially dangerous and because not enough is known about its long-term effects. In this case, there is no indicator word for the conclusion. However, we do have the presence of an indicator word for premises, namely the word because, which shows up twice. If we start by looking for the indicator words, we can then see that the claim that marijuana is potentially dangerous and the claim that marijuana not enough is known about its long-term effects, we can see that these are premises used to support the claim that marijuana should not be legalized. Okay, so these indicator words are definitely helpful, but a word of caution. Indicator words function only as general guides to help you find premises and conclusions. Sometimes they are present even when a premise or conclusion is not. Let's look at some examples of that. First example, every night since Harry watched The Babadook, he has had nightmares. Here we have the presence of the indicator word since, but it's not picking out a premise. Rather, in this case, the word since is being used to indicate a period of time. Similarly, in the example, some say Tony Blair became unpopular because of his role involving Great Britain in the war in Iraq, because, which is an indicator word, here is not functioning to pick out a premise, but rather is explaining a causal connection, the connection between Tony Blair's unpopularity and his role in the war in Iraq. This can happen with conclusion indicator words too. For example, my dog ran away, therefore I am putting up a sign to ask for help in finding her. Here, the word therefore, which functions as a conclusion indicator word, isn't picking out a conclusion, rather it's being used to explain a rationale. Before wrapping up, let's test out what we've learned with an example. So here's a little argument from Aristotle. The Earth is spherical in shape. For the night sky looks different in the northern and southern parts of the Earth, and this would be so only if the Earth were spherical in shape. Let's start by looking for an indicator word. Do we have one? Yep, we do. In this case, it's the word for, which functions as a premise indicator word. Now that we found this word, let's take a look at what comes after. Does this plausibly look like a premise? The night sky looks different in the northern and southern parts of the Earth? Yeah, it does, because this claim can be used to support another claim that we've got here, namely, the Earth is spherical in shape. Of course, this claim doesn't do much supporting all on its own. It does supporting in conjunction with this claim. This would be so only if the Earth were spherical in shape. So it looks like we've got ourselves a two-premise argument, and we found these premises by looking at what came after the indicator word. Then once we've identified these premises, it's pretty obvious what the conclusion is, namely that the Earth is spherical in shape. Now that we've identified all these parts, we can take this argument and put it in standard form. In standard form, the argument looks like this. Premise 1. The night sky looks different in the northern and southern parts of the Earth. Premise 2. This would be so only if the Earth were spherical in shape. Conclusion. The Earth is spherical in shape. And of course, this is structured this way because this is what the standard form looks like. Each premise on its own line, followed by the solid line, followed by a conclusion. Alright, so now you've got some basic tools to go out and identify yourselves some arguments. Good luck, and see you next time.